And I'm Tyler.
And today we're going to talk about Donald Trump. So obviously you've all heard about the lewd comments that Donald Trump made about some women he's interacted with back in 2005. So obviously this has some very bad repercussions for him. So we're going to kind of go into details about that and just talk about how Donald Trump hasn't really been good for Republicans since the beginning. So Tyler, I'd like you to kind of start off.
Yeah. Now Donald Trump has some pretty loyal followers. Obviously, his followers are not going to take a step back. They're going to be focusing on Donald Trump no matter what Trump does. I mean, hell, Trump could literally whip out his cock on camera and his supporters would still freaking support him. I have no idea why.
Which I want to go. I want to go into, and we talked about this before. Trump, for some reason, has been able to get the support of so many Republicans, which is funny because he's not really a Republican. So I want to just go into like several reasons why Donald Trump isn't even a Republican and why Republicans shouldn't support him, especially through all of this controversy, and why we'd probably be better off with somebody like a Mike Pence. And like we've talked about in our other podcasts, Tyler and I are libertarians.
Yeah.
We're not Republicans.
Hell, he was a Democrat.
But obviously,
he was a Democrat when he made those comments back in 2005. So him being a Republican is a...
He still is a Democrat.
I mean,
what are you talking about?
He's an undercover Democrat at this point.
So Tyler, you want to go into the first reason that Donald Trump is not a conservative?
I think the first thing that should be talked about is his trade policy. That's like one of the biggest focus. Next to the wall, you have China. That's what he talks about. China.
China.
This guy just nonstop.
Honestly, I love the way Trump. That's the one thing I'm gonna miss when this is all over is the way he enunciates words.
China.
Stamina. China. I have the right temperament.
Yeah.
It's so great. And and Mexicans. I love the way he says Mexicans. It just like you could tell it makes liberals uncomfortable when he says Mexicans. Or the blacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be really. We're gonna miss it a lot. But go on about the free
trade
so problem.
Donald Trump has advocated a 35% tax on all Chinese imports. This would essentially cause a trade war. He says that Mexico will pay for the wall. Now, I honestly think that when the dude made that statement, he had no idea what the hell he was talking about. And then when people really laughed at him and called him out, like, how the hell are you going to make Mexico pay for it? Well, he brought up trade. And that's a reason that makes his statement clear, then we can understand. So he wants to start a trade war with Mexico, which is one of our biggest allies. So this is a whole load of problems because if you're a Republican, I think that one of the big things that Republicans pride themselves on is that they are a party of low taxes. They believe in low taxes. And this is exactly the opposite. I mean, it's proven over and over that free trade works and that if we have free trade deals, that economies on both sides of the spectrum will benefit. People say, well, but we're losing our manufacturing jobs to China. Well, that's the problem, is people think that we need to have a manufacturing sector. This is how capitalism works. We are no longer a manufacturing economy. We're not an output economy. We're not an export economy. We import. And we have the tech industry is blowing up right now. We have other industries that are providing higher paying wages. We don't need the manufacturing industry. So us trying to use protectionist policy to hold on to that is the wrong mindset to have. And mind you, starting a trade war with China is not only economically dangerous because we are so economically intertwined with China, it's also politically dangerous. In fact, the only reason why China hasn't went to war with us, because they don't like us, is because we are so economically intertwined with China. I mean, everything you have, pretty much the manufacturing of it is most likely to have been done in China. Apple is one of the biggest examples. Think about how Apple would not do their manufacturing in America. I guarantee you that. They will do it anywhere that's cheaper. Why? Because it's cheaper. Now, if you want to bring
So what makes
jobs back,
so
the way that you do it is becoming more competitive. Think about it from the perspective of Apple. Why does Apple not want to make a business, not want to manufacture here in America? Okay, well, you have to deal with the fact, one, that we have the third highest corporate tax in the freaking world. Two, our minimum wage is way too high. I mean, California is set to make its minimum wage for $15 an hour. So obviously there's a lot of costs associated with that, and Apple just doesn't want to do that. So as a result, it's not just Apple. A lot of businesses, they don't want to lose money, so they find cheaper alternatives and they go to other countries. If you want to bring jobs back, you lower taxes, you cut the regulations, you make it easier for mid-size, lower businesses to do business and manufacture here. But the point is, manufacturing sector as a whole is gone. We are a new economy, we are a developed economy, and we're never going to go back to being a predominantly manufacturing heavy economy.
so I want to kind of look at this through the eyes of a Republican. So why should free trade why is free trade intertwined with the ideas of conservatism? Is it, or is it more of a liberal idea?
I mean, I think with conservatism and liberalism, those two words are really just socially constructed. People have really created their own meanings for them because the original meaning of liberal was truly what many conservatives think of themselves as today. Liberal is liberal, in other words, free. So free markets, free people. So the idea of an old school liberal or a classical.
Well, I don't want to get into semantics or definitions. I'm just trying to say, why somebody that thinks of themselves as a Republican should not, because you hear things like "Make America Great Again," "Keep America American," we want everything made in America, we're outsourcing all of our jobs. To Republicans who are very nationalistic for the most part, that all sounds like, yeah, that's what I want. But why is it a hallmark?
Right. I mean, if the question is
why is it the hallmark?
Why is it not conservative, you have to get into the semantics of it because Donald Trump has created his own brand of quote unquote conservatism, a brand of conservatism that promotes protectionist policy, that promotes a very invasive government, and conservatism, traditional conservatism in America has come to mean low, limited government, people that are obviously believe in stricter social policies because maybe they have more family values or whatever it may be. That's really what conservatism has come to mean. And Trump has taken that and rebranded that. I think that he really tries to make himself seem conservative by calling out the establishment every chance he gets. And it really, I don't understand why his followers are actually buying it because I see when I hear a lot of Trump supporters, they talk about, well, I want to work for my stuff. I don't want handouts. I don't want they try to talk as if they were a conservative. I like lower taxes. I like all this stuff. But when you actually see Trump's policy, that's inconsistent with what you're saying. So I don't understand how these people, I think a lot of these people are really just brainwashed with the rhetoric and the image of Trump. Trump is a very powerful man. He seems, all he does is say very open-ended statements that seem like, heck, anything Trump says seems like something I would like for the country. Let's win. Let's make America great again. Hell, why wouldn't I want that? But when you look at the content of what Trump advocates, it makes no sense why any Republican would support him.
Basically, the gist of this is conservatives preach more economic freedom, at least in their rhetoric, typically. But when you take away free trade and you make all these tariffs super expensive, you're hurting the free market, which is something that conservatives like to say that they take their pride in. So can you really say that you're a conservative if you're anti-free trade? Or you're pro giant tariffs that make trade very difficult for companies to outsource their jobs so that they could actually afford to make a profit because our
Or
corporate
even when
taxes are
Trump,
so high.
oh, I'm
So
sorry.
now we're gonna
Or even when
go
Trump
ahead.
says
No, go ahead.
that I'm a free trader, I just want deals done by smart people and not by stupid people. Well, what does he want? What essentially does he want? He wants China to do things that they're never going to do. And the way that he's going to make them do that is start a trade war. So that's not what the philosophy of a free trader. A free trader believes in cutting tariffs no matter what, not the mindset that we're going to punish other countries by raising tariffs. Um, that's not conservative at all.
So the problem with the no-fly list is that you could be put on the no-fly list without any due process. You can be put on this no-fly list without even knowing until you try to fly or buy a gun. So basically, the government can take away your constitutional rights without any without any legal process whatsoever. That is very unconstitutional, and I think the fact that Trump supports that is very anti-Second Amendment and also very anti-freedom. And I think that should be a very big red flag for conservatives. You have anything to add on to
Yeah,
that,
nope,
Tyler?
you covered it pretty well. Yeah, so eminent domain there's a lot of problems with eminent domain. If you're someone who believes in eminent domain and you call yourself a Republican, this really gets down to the core of why you're not, excuse me, why you're not a Republican. Because eminent domain is the idea that you're taking someone's private property away and you're making it public and you're trying to give them reparations, trying to give them rewards for it or whatever. But no matter what, whether that person wants to or not, you take their property away. And a conservative truly prides himself on private property. I mean, that's one of the basic principles. This country was founded on protecting private property. It's a huge principle of conservatism, and if to call yourself a capitalist, you have to believe in private property. Now, I'm not saying Trump doesn't believe in private property, but eminent domain is certainly a big problem because it really gets to the nitty gritty of why Trump really just flip flops and doesn't have a consistent line of principle. With the one of the big things was the wall. I mean, the wall itself causes a lot of problems of eminent domain, and Trump is obviously not going to care. Um, he is actually very, very pro eminent domain, and he has dealt with a lot of cases of eminent domain. And yeah, so
For his own fortune, he actually said back in the primary debates. Back in the primary debates, Trump said that eminent domain is absolutely necessary. He went on to say like, "Oh, you wouldn't have roads, you wouldn't have bridges, you wouldn't have hospitals," which is ridiculous to say without eminent domain. So, you guys are probably starting to see a theme here. We equate conservatism with freedom for the most part. There are some problems with conservatism and freedom, but for the most part, government should not be intervening in your economic life if you claim to be a conservative. That's why libertarians will also say, well, I'm conservative when it comes to economic issues, I'm liberal when it comes to social issues. So the problem is not with Donald Trump's social issues. The problem is with his economic issues, which is which I think Tyler and I would agree is important, the most important aspect of a presidential candidate.
yeah, yeah. I think with Trump, he is flip flopped on so many things. So when I say he doesn't have a consistent line of beliefs, he has no principle. I mean, this guy has said that he was for minimum wage. He said he was okay with the minimum wage is around $7 an hour. Now he's saying he wants a $10 minimum wage. So he is just jumping all over the board. Now this whole thing with his daughter talking about the paid family leave. I mean, that's something that Bernie Sanders introduced. He did that because it was his daughter, and I don't think that he really cares about his principles. And he's even said, I'm not a typical Republican, because he's not a Republican. He's not even a quote unquote uncommon Republican. He shouldn't even be a Republican. But yet, many people have voted for him because of his basic rhetoric and haven't actually analyzed the things that he said. He's just one thing that conservatives pride themselves on is having consistent principles. And I think it's fair to get mad at a conservative when he compromises those principles, and Donald Trump literally has none.
I think the really important reason Tyler and I are making this video is to touch on the things, because most of the criticisms you hear about Donald Trump, especially in the last couple days, even more so than usual, is that he's a racist, he's a misogynist, he's a bigot, he's a sexist. All those liberal buzzwords that they like to throw around. Well, we want to talk about why Trump's policy. What's wrong with Trump's policy? Why there are so many never Trump Republicans? Because, I mean, I think it's still open to debate of whether he. I mean, obviously, it's kind of hard to defend him as a misogynist at this point. I think that's probably uh, pretty clear as day
Yeah.
now. Calling him a racist because he is anti-illegal immigration is kind of ridiculous. Um, but we really want to get down to the nitty-gritty and talk about why his policy is bad and it is not
Right.
conservative. So that's the main reason we make this video. And the problem is he's very pro. He's one of those big government Republicans. I'm not going to even call him a big government conservative because that's an oxymoron. He's a big government Republican, which stands against conservative values. So I don't understand why there's so many conservatives out there voting for him and defending him. I get that you guys don't want Hillary, but there's a problem when we're basically just accepting Donald Trump, even though he's not an ideal candidate. When there are people like Mike Pence, there are people like, I mean, you might hate him, but Gary Johnson would be a much better option than either of the two candidates we have
Yeah,
now.
and I understand in being practical and not wanting Hillary to win. I think no one wants Hillary to win if you're a Republican. But what we have to understand is that, but despite wanting to be practical, there is only so much principles that we can compromise. And with Trump, we are literally compromising virtually everything. I mean, Trump just throws conservatism out the door. He throws the Republican platform out the door. He could care less. He does what he wants, what benefits his view, and what benefits his image. And it seems that he's not really for the American people. So if conservatives really cared, they should look past his rhetoric. And I understand with all the liberal buzzwords that make me want to vote Trump, honestly, racist, misogynist, all this stuff. It's these liberal buzzwords that really piss a lot of us Republicans off because they're really just overstated. They're not really. He's not racist for wanting to build a wall. We get that. But despite the liberal buzzwords, look past his rhetoric. Look past his basic open-ended statements that he makes. Make America great again. Look past that and ask yourself, is Trump a principled person? And does he follow the Republican platform or follow your beliefs? And how far away is he from your beliefs? And the truth is, he's honestly pretty far. It's just not, you really have to choose your country over your party. At the end of the day, you may call yourself a Republican, but you should be American first.
Yeah, and we can go on to many more topics about why we don't think Donald Trump is actually conservative and why conservatives shouldn't even support him, especially throughout this latest controversy, which is honestly
Yeah,
indefensible.
and with Republicans, it's like
I
I'm
think
sick of it because like all these Republicans that are endorsing him and stuff, it's like Republicans I always thought were very, very they had really good ethics, very good family values. That's when I think of a conservative. I think of a guy who has a nice family, great values, great ethics. But when Trump comes here and just hijacks the Republican Party, you're throwing all that away. And you're saying, I'm still voting Trump despite him doing all this stuff. And here's the thing. Here's the main argument from the Trump supporters. They're saying, well, Hillary, tried to attack all the women that called rape against Bill Clinton. Don't get me wrong. That's bad, right? Obviously, Bill Clinton is a rapist. Hillary tried to defend her husband. That's all bad. But that's the Democrat Party, okay? They can elect Anthony Weiner. They can elect people that are freaking rapists and people with bad ethics. But we're Republicans, okay? We're Republicans. I'm libertarian, but I'd like to identify as a Republican. Not so much anymore because Donald Trump is a nominee, but we are Republicans, and Republicans have ethics. We have morals. And if you want to remain a party that believes in morals and ethics, then we should judge Donald Trump by the same standards that we judge Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. That's all I'm asking.
All right. Do you think that's a
Yeah,
good point to
yeah, I think that's a good
end
point.
at? All right. I think that wraps up the whole point of this video pretty nicely. Um, Obviously, we implore you guys to stop supporting Donald Trump and either throw your support behind Gary Johnson or Mike Pence or maybe somebody else.
Right in Pence or Johnson.
Maybe Ted Cruz comes back in. Well, maybe Rand
Yep.
Paul. Probably won't happen. But yeah. Once again, I'm Austin.
I'm Tyler.
And thanks for watching the Dirty Libertines.